You're standing in a coffee shop, staring at the menu. You know you should save money. You know that $5 latte adds up to hundreds every month. You know, investing that money instead could compound into thousands over the years. But somehow, your hand is already reaching for your wallet. This isn't weakness. This isn't lack of discipline. This is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, and it's destroying your financial future. Let me tell you something that nobody wants to hear. Your brain is not built for wealth. It's built for survival in a world that no longer exists. Every single day, you make dozens of financial decisions, and nearly all of them are wrong. Not because you're stupid, not because you haven't read enough books or watched enough videos, but because you're fighting against millions of years of evolution with nothing but willpower, and willpower always loses. Here's the truth that will change everything. Your brain operates on systems that were perfected when humans lived in caves, hunted for food, and could die from starvation at any moment. Back then, if you found a bush full of berries, you ate all of them immediately. You didn't save some for next week. You couldn't. There was no refrigerator. There was no guarantee you'd even be alive next week. The humans who delayed gratification died. The humans who consumed everything immediately survived and passed on their genes. Those are the genes you carry today. This is why when you see something you want, your brain floods with dopamine. It's not celebrating a purchase. It's celebrating survival. When you spend money on something immediately pleasurable, you're not being irresponsible. You're following an evolutionary script written over millions of years. And that script is actively working against every financial goal you've ever set. Think about the last impulse purchase you made. Maybe it was a new phone when your old one worked fine. Maybe it was clothes you didn't need. Maybe it was a subscription service you barely use. In that moment, your rational brain knew it was a bad decision. You knew you should save that money. You knew you had financial goals, but you bought it anyway. Why? Because your primitive brain, the part that controls most of your decisions, saw immediate pleasure and activated the same reward systems that once saved your ancestors from starvation. The problem is that our modern world has weaponized these ancient systems against us. As every advertisement, every marketing campaign, every store layout, every app interface is specifically designed by teams of psychologists and neuroscientists to trigger your survival instincts. They know exactly which buttons to push. They know that showing you a countdown timer triggers your fear of scarcity. They know that offering free shipping over a certain amount triggers your desire to maximize value. They know that suggesting you buy something because others bought it triggers your tribal instincts. And they use this knowledge ruthlessly. Your brain has two systems for making decisions. Scientists call them System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, automatic, emotional, and incredibly powerful. It's the part that makes you jump when you hear a loud noise. It's the part that makes you crave sugar when you're stressed. It's the part that makes you spend money on things that feel good right now. System 2 is slow, deliberate, logical, and embarrassingly weak. It's the part that can do math, plan for the future, and understand compound interest. It's the part that knows you should invest instead of spend. Here's the devastating part. System 1 is active all the time. It never sleeps. It processes information thousands of times faster than System 2. And it controls about 95% of your decisions. System 2, your rational mind, only gets involved when you force it to, when you sit down and deliberately think through a decision. But even when you engage your rational mind, System 1 is whispering in the background, influencing your thoughts in ways you don't even notice. This is why budgets fail. This is why New Year's resolutions about saving money collapse by February. This is why you can read every personal finance book ever written and still make terrible financial decisions. You're not fighting a knowledge problem. You're fighting your own biology. And biology doesn't care about your retirement account. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine I offer you two choices. Choice A, I give you $1,000 right now. Choice B, I give you $1,100 in 1 month. Rationally, choice B is obviously better. It's 10% more money for just waiting 30 days. That's an annualized return of over 100%. No investment on earth offers that reliably. But studies show that most people choose choice A. They choose less money immediately over more money later. This is called hyperbolic discounting, and it's one of the most powerful forces destroying your wealth. Your brain values the present exponentially more than the future. $1,000 today feels more real, more valuable, more satisfying than $1,100 in a month, even though rationally, mathematically, obviously, waiting is the better choice. The same mechanism is why you spend instead of invest. Spending gives you immediate satisfaction. Investing gives you delayed satisfaction. And your brain will choose immediate satisfaction almost every single time, unless you build systems to override it. Now, here's where it gets even worse. Your brain doesn't just prefer immediate rewards. It's also terrible at understanding exponential growth. Humans think linearly. If I tell you to imagine a number that doubles every day, starting at 1, your brain thinks 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. It seems manageable, predictable. But by day 30, that number is over 1 billion. Your brain cannot intuitively grasp this. It seems impossible. This is why people don't take compound interest seriously. They hear that investing small amounts regularly can make them millionaires. And it sounds like fantasy. Their brain cannot visualize exponential growth, because exponential growth didn't exist in the ancestral environment. But here's what your brain can visualize. A new car, a new car, a new car, a designer, handbag, a vacation. These are concrete, immediate, tangible. You can picture yourself enjoying them right now. This is why car dealerships show you monthly payments instead of total cost. They know your brain can't process the full weight of a $30,000 purchase, but it can imagine paying $500 a month. They're deliberately exploiting your brain's weakness with large numbers and long time frames. There's another trap your brain sets for you, and it's particularly insidious. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. Imagine you buy a gym membership for a year. You pay up front. After 2 months, you realize you hate that gym. It's crowded, the equipment is old, and it's far from your house. Rationally, you should stop going and find a better gym. The money is already spent. It's gone, whether you use the membership or not. But your brain can't accept this. It screams at you that you've already paid, so you have to keep going, even though you're miserable and could be more productive elsewhere. This same pattern destroys investment portfolios. People hold on to losing stocks because they can't accept the loss. They keep pouring money into failing businesses because they've already invested so much. They stay in bad financial decisions because admitting the initial decision was wrong feels more painful than continuing to lose money. Your brain is literally choosing ongoing pain over the temporary pain of admitting a mistake. Let me tell you about a study that perfectly demonstrates how broken our financial instincts are. Researchers gave people a choice. You can have a guaranteed $90, or you can have a 90% chance of winning $100 and a 10% chance of winning nothing. Mathematically, the expected value of the gamble is $90, exactly the same as the guaranteed option. But most people chose the guaranteed $90. Now, they changed the scenario. You can have a guaranteed loss of $90, or you can have a 90% chance of losing $100 and a 10% chance of losing nothing. Same mathematics, same expected value. But now, most people chose to gamble. Do you see what happened? When facing gains, people are they prefer certainty. But when facing losses, people become they'd rather gamble than accept a sure loss. This is called loss aversion, and it's one of the most powerful biases in human psychology. We feel the pain of losing money about twice as strongly as we feel the pleasure of gaining the same amount. This is why people hold on to losing investments too long and sell winning investments too early. They're desperately trying to avoid the feeling of loss, even when it means making worse financial decisions. Your brain also has a funny relationship with money itself. Studies show that people spend more when using credit cards than cash. Not a little more, significantly more, sometimes up to twice as much. Why? Because cash is tangible. When you hand over physical bills, your brain processes it as a real loss. You feel Italiano. But swiping a card or tapping your phone is abstract. There's no physical pain, no immediate feedback. Your brain doesn't register it as spending in the same way. This is why credit card companies fought so hard to make payments easier. Contactless payments, one click. Purchases, stored payment information. Every layer of abstraction makes it easier for you to spend because it disconnects the act of buying from the pain of paying. Now, let's talk about something that might be destroying your wealth more than anything else. Social comparison. Your brain has a deep, primal need to understand where you stand in the social hierarchy. In ancient times, this made sense. Being low status meant less access to food, mates, and protection. It could literally mean death. So your brain constantly scans your environment, comparing yourself to others. This worked fine when your environment was a tribe of 50 people. But now, through social media, your brain is comparing you to millions of people, most of whom are showing you only their best moments, their purchases, their successes. When you see someone on Instagram with a new car, your brain doesn't think, that's nice for them. Your brain thinks, I'm falling behind. I'm losing status. I need to catch up. And the easiest way to catch up, the fastest way to signal status, is to spend money. Buy things. Show the world that you're successful too. This is why people go into debt to maintain appearances. Their rational brain knows it's stupid, but their primitive brain is screaming that social status is survival, and they need to spend to maintain it. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the hedonic treadmill. It means that no matter how much stuff you acquire, no matter how much money you spend, you return to the same baseline level of happiness. You buy a new car, and for a week, maybe a month, you feel great. Then it becomes normal. It becomes your new baseline, and you need something else to feel that high again. Your brain is literally designed to adapt to improvements in your circumstances, to stop appreciating them, so you stay motivated to seek more. This was useful when more meant finding more food, building better shelter. But in a consumer economy, it means you're on an endless treadmill of spending, never satisfied, always needing the next purchase to feel good. Here's something most people never realize. Your brain is much better at imagining spending money than making money. If I ask you to think about how you'd spend $1 million, your brain lights up with possibilities. A house, cars, vacations, investments, gifts for family. You can visualize it all, clearly and quickly. But if I ask you to think about how you'd earn $1 million, your brain struggles. It's vague. It's hard. It requires sustained effort and planning. This asymmetry is devastating. Your brain makes spending feel easy and earning feel hard, even though the opposite would serve you much better. There's another critical trap. The illusion of control. Your brain loves feeling in control. It hates uncertainty. This is why people gamble. They convince themselves they have a system, a strategy, inside knowledge. This is why people pick individual stocks instead of buying index funds. Even though the data overwhelmingly shows that most people cannot beat the market consistently, picking stocks feels like control. It feels like you're doing something, making smart decisions, using your intelligence. Buying an index fund feels passive, like you're admitting you can't do better. But here's the truth. The feeling of control is often an illusion, and that illusion costs you money. Let me tell you what happens when someone gets a windfall. Maybe they inherit money, win the lottery, or get a large bonus. Studies show that most people quickly spend it. Not on investments. Not on building wealth. On consumption. Why? Because their brain is operating on what's called mental accounting. They didn't earn this money through their regular work, so it feels like free money. It feels different from their salary. And money that feels free is easy to spend. This is why tax refunds get spent instead of invested. This is why bonuses disappear. Your brain categorizes money based on where it came from, not on what it could do for you. Your brain is also incredibly bad at probabilistic thinking. If I tell you there's a 99% chance of something happening, your brain hears almost certain. If I tell you there's a 1% chance, your brain hears basically impossible. But in reality, 1% chances happen all the time. If you make 100 decisions that each have a 1% chance of a bad outcome, you'll likely experience at least one of those bad outcomes. This is why people don't save for emergencies. The specific emergency seems unlikely, but any emergency becomes quite likely over time. Your brain just can't process this correctly. There's a phenomenon called present bias that's particularly cruel. Your brain assigns much more weight to your current self than your future self. Your future self is abstract, almost like a stranger. So when choosing between pleasure now and security later, your brain treats it like choosing between yourself and someone you barely know. Of course, you choose yourself. This is why people don't save for retirement. Retirement feels impossibly far away. The person who will retire feels like a different person entirely. Why sacrifice now for someone who doesn't even exist yet? But here's the devastating truth. That future person is you. You will become that person. And when you do, you'll desperately wish that your past self had made different choices. But by then, it's too late. The compound interest you could have earned is gone forever. The years of growth you missed cannot be recovered. Time is the most powerful force in building wealth, and your brain's present bias causes you to waste it. Now let me tell you about something called decision fatigue. Your system too, your rational mind, runs on glucose. It gets tired. Every decision you make, especially difficult decisions, depletes its resources. This is why people make worse decisions later in the day. This is why judges give harsher sentences before lunch than after. Their mental resources are depleted, and in that depleted state, they fall back on System 1, on instinct and emotion. For you, this means that if you spend all day making difficult decisions at work, by the evening, your resistance to spending is at its lowest. This is not coincidence. This is not weakness. This is biology. Your environment is constantly making decisions for you through what's called choice architecture. The default option is incredibly powerful because choosing it requires no mental effort. This is why automatic enrollment in retirement plans increases participation dramatically. People are lazy. Not morally lazy, cognitively lazy. Their brain conserves energy by accepting defaults. Companies know this. This is why subscriptions auto-renew. This is why shipping isn't automatically free. They're deliberately setting defaults that benefit them, not you. Let me tell you about anchoring. One of the most powerful manipulation techniques used against you every single day. When you see a jacket priced at $500, marked down to $200, your brain anchors on 500. 200 feels like a steal, like you're saving $300. But you're not saving anything. You were spending $200 on a jacket you might not have even wanted until you saw the sale. The original price was arbitrary, probably inflated specifically to make the sale price seem good. But your brain can't help itself. It anchors on the first number it sees, and judges everything else relative to that anchor. This happens in salary negotiations. If the first number mentioned is high, all subsequent numbers feel relative to that. This happens in real estate. The listing price becomes the anchor, even if it bears no relationship to actual value. This happens every time you see was this. Now, this pricing. Your brain is being manipulated, and you probably don't even notice. There's another insidious force at work called the endowment effect. Once you own something, even for a few minutes, your brain values it more highly than it did before you owned it. Researchers have done experiments where they give people mugs, then ask how much they'd sell them for. People consistently demand more money to sell the mug than they'd been willing to pay to buy it, even though they've owned it 4 minutes. This is why free trials work so well. Once you have the product, once it's yours, giving it up feels like a loss, even though you never paid for it. Your brain has already claimed it as part of your endowment, and losses hurt. Let me tell you about something that might be the most dangerous bias of all: overconfidence. Your brain is wired to be overconfident in your own abilities. This served our ancestors well. The overconfident hunter who thought he could take down the mammoth was more likely to try, more likely to succeed, more likely to survive. But in finance, overconfidence destroys wealth. People think they can time the market. They think they can spot the next big stock. They think they're smarter than professional investors with teams of analysts and sophisticated algorithms. And they're almost always wrong. Studies show that the most active traders, the people most confident in their abilities, have the worst returns. They trade constantly, racking up fees, timing things wrong, chasing performance. Meanwhile, people who simply buy and hold, people who admit they don't know what will happen next and diversify accordingly, do much better. But admitting you don't know feels terrible. Your brain hates uncertainty. It would rather be confidently wrong than humbly uncertain. Your brain also falls victim to something called the recency bias. Recent events feel more important, more predictive of the future than they actually are. If the stock market has been going up for the last year, your brain assumes it will keep going up. If it's been going down, your brain assumes it will keep going down. This is exactly backward from what you should do. When markets are high, that's when they're most likely to fall. When they're low, that's when they're most likely to rise. But your brain cannot fight the pattern of recent experience. It assumes the immediate past predicts the immediate future, even though in markets, this is often completely wrong. There's also confirmation bias, which might be the most pernicious of all. Your brain seeks out information that confirms what you already believe and ignores information that contradicts it. If you believe a certain stock is good, you'll notice every piece of positive news about it and dismiss every warning sign. If you believe you're good with money, you'll remember your successes and forget your failures. This creates a feedback loop where you become more and more convinced of things that might be completely wrong. And the more convinced you become, the harder it is for reality to break through. Let me tell you about the planning fallacy. When estimating how long something will take or how much it will cost, your brain is wildly optimistic. It imagines everything going perfectly. No delays, no unexpected costs, no complications. This is why projects always run over budget and over time. This is why people think they can pay off debt faster than they actually can. This is why budgets fail. Your brain plans for an ideal world that doesn't exist, then gets blindsided when reality intrudes. Now, here's where all of this comes together into a perfect storm of financial destruction. You're walking through life with a brain designed for a world that no longer exists, making decisions based on emotions you don't understand, being manipulated by systems specifically designed to exploit your weaknesses, completely unable to grasp the concepts that matter most for building wealth. It's not your fault, but it is your problem. The average person sees an advertisement about 50 times before making a purchase. 50 times. Your brain is being programmed, slowly, subtly, to want things you never knew existed. Each exposure weakens your resistance, makes the purchase feel more normal, more justified. And you don't even notice it happening. You think you're making a free choice, but you're following a script written by marketers who understand your brain better than you do. Here's something that will probably make you angry. The financial industry knows all of this. They know your brain is bad at long-term thinking. They know you're loss-averse. They know you're overconfident, and they use it against you. High fees are hidden in complex language because they know you won't read the fine print. Risky investments are sold during bull markets when your recency bias makes you think returns will continue forever. Products are designed to look more complicated than they are because complexity creates the illusion of sophistication, and your brain equates sophisticated with good. Banks literally hire behavioral psychologists to figure out how to get you to spend more and save less. Credit limits are set just high enough to make you feel wealthy, but not so high that you couldn't possibly pay them back. Minimum payments are set low enough to seem manageable while ensuring you pay massive interest over time. Every aspect of the system is optimized to extract money from people who don't understand what's happening to them. But here's what gives me hope. Once you understand these mechanisms, once you see how your brain is working against you, you can build systems to protect yourself. You cannot change your brain. You cannot rewire millions of years of evolution, but you can change your environment. You can build guardrails, You can automate good decisions and make bad decisions harder. If you know you'll spend money you see in your checking account, set up automatic transfers to savings the day your paycheck arrives. Make saving the default. If you know you'll impulse buy when browsing online, delete shopping apps from your phone. Add friction to spending. If you know you'll procrastinate on important financial decisions, schedule specific times to make them, and make those appointments as important as doctor's visits. The people who build wealth aren't the ones with the strongest willpower. They're the ones with the best systems. They automate their investing so they never have to decide whether to invest this month. They avoid situations where they'll be tempted to spend. They structure their life so that good financial decisions are easy, and bad financial decisions are hard. Understanding that your brain is working against you isn't depressing. It's liberating. It means your financial struggles aren't a moral failing. You're not weak or stupid or undisciplined. You're human. And humans are not built for the modern financial world. But humans are also incredibly adaptable. We can learn. We can build tools. We can create systems that work with our limitations instead of against them. Every terrible financial decision you've ever made, every impulse purchase, every time you chose immediate gratification over long-term wealth, that was your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. You are following programming written over millions of years. But now, you know. Now, you can see the strings. And once you see them, you can start to cut them. The question isn't whether your brain will try to sabotage your financial future. It will. The question is whether you'll build a life that protects you from your own worst instincts. Because wealth isn't built by people with perfect self. It's built by people who understand they don't have perfect self-control and plan accordingly. Your brain will always choose the wrong option, but you don't have to let it win.